and he sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son.
That's exactly right. Let's see here. I'm going to circle Baya Alehu. I probably normally wouldn't, like on a quiz, circle this one because it's kind of complicated, but I want to talk about it anyways. And we talked about it, I think, in class last week from a different panel, right? Because this word has been used a few times. Anyways, I'm just going to circle it. Tell me what you can about it.
Okay. Well, I think it's a... Oh, I lost it. There it is. Okay. I think it's a call past narrative. Third masculine singular with a third masculine singular pronominal suffix.
All right, good.
And the root would be ayin lamed hey.
All right, cool. So you got you lost 1 point because I don't believe it is call.
Okay.
It's a little tricky, and this is why I wouldn't put it on a quiz. But if we look at our charts, I think we need to go to a. Do I want to look at? Where do the verbs actually start? A16 might do it. Yeah, so let's look at A16. So you said this is a past narrative, and you were exactly right. So look at the past narrative row, and under call, what vowel is underneath the yod?
It's a hirik.
That's right. So when we look at our verb, we see a patak. So we need to go across this row until we see a patak underneath the yod. There's only one that actually has a patak.
Okay, looks like it's a hifil then.
That's right. So that's the only clue that you have that this is a hifil. Normally we're looking for several other things, but here, because this is a past narrative, because it's a weak verb, both the hey and the hirik yod are gone. So the only clue that we have left is this patak. So the past narrative in the call is normally spelled with the hirik, and then the past narrative in the PL and pual is normally spelled with a shiva underneath the yod. But then the hifil is normally spelled with patak. So our vowel is letting us know that this is a hifil.
Okay.
Everything else you said was exactly right. So other than that, I think all the other ones are pretty straightforward.
So rather than he sacrificed it, it would be more like he caused it to go up.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Sacrifice.
That's exactly. So it'll almost always be translated as sacrificed, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But more literally, he caused it to go up for an offering.
Okay.
Instead of his son. I like the imagery that gives us when we think about sacrifices and how the ancient people thought of the cosmos. Literally causing the animal to go up into the sky, right? That's what happens when we burn something, especially in the ancient mind. Today, I mean, science tells us a lot of other things are happening. But if you were to burn something, it looks like that animal is going up into the heavens, where God is, right? So that's why Olah comes from the root that means to go up, because a burnt offering is something that goes up.
Okay.
So I like to be as literal as I can when I translate, because it adds a lot of that flavor that we're going to miss if we just translate it. And he sacrificed the burnt offering. Okay, well, I mean, that's what he did. But there's more to it.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Good work. All right, Lindy. Good morning. How are you? And go ahead and translate the next panel.
Do you want me to read it too?
Yep.
Okay. So, Vayikara Avraham Shem Ha-Makom Ha-Hu Adonai Yireh Asher Amer.
Yea Amer.
Yeah, Amer. Hayom, Bahar, Adonai, Yireh.
Yay, I can't see my vowels because it's too fuzzy, but
Yireh.
yay, ra'eh.
Yireh. Okay.
If that's a segel underneath the resh, I can't see. Tov Ma'od, go ahead and translate.
So is Yakara, and he called to Abraham at the place.
So who is your subject of this verb?
Abraham.
Good. So Abraham's the subject. So and Abraham called.
Abraham called at the place.
Where'd you get at? You're throwing in at there, but why?
Oh, at the. Well, is Shem, is that name or is that something else?
No, that's right. It is name.
The name of the place. Oh, of the Lord. Is that what it is?
Well, so Abraham called the name of the place, and then Hahu is that one. So Hahu is making this more definite. It's just not the name of the place, but it's that place. So this is a demonstrative pronoun, and you might remember that. Well, hold on. So I'm thinking through this. Who can function as a demonstrative pronoun, but we have a different one in the singular. This is one option. So it's that place. And then this is what he named it. Adonai Yireh. What does that mean?
I was trying to figure out what Yireh.
Yeah. So what do you think the root is of Yireh?
It's the Resh Aleph.
Resh Aleph. And so we're missing a letter. What letter do you think you're missing? Is it a yod, or is it a hey, or is there one that is not there?
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, it's actually the hey. So this is Resh Aleph hey is your root. Ra'ah.
Okay.
What does Ra'ah mean?
I don't remember that one.
Anybody?
To see?
To see.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's where God sees.
Yeah, something like that, exactly. So the Lord will see. So this is in the imperfect. So the Lord will see. And normally we'd add to it. And oftentimes it's translated as the Lord will provide. Because this is a verb that Abraham used earlier when Isaac asked him, "Hey man, where's the burnt offering? What are we going to sacrifice?" And he says, "The Lord will see to it." And this is the same verb. The Lord will provide it.
Okay.
So
and then Abraham said, the day at the mountain that God saw, or that God provided.
Okay, so you're translating down here. So
Yeah.
Well,
Asher can be could be because. It could be a couple different things. Could be which, could be.
Okay, so first off, this quote is in the wrong place, I believe. I think this quote needs to go over here. So he named it "The Lord Will Provide," which it is said Hayom. Hayom is today, which it is said today. Quote, Bahar Adonai Yireh.
Right.
So how do you translate Bahar Adonai Yireh?
That's at the mountain the Lord provided.
At the mountain the Lord provided. Parse out Yireh for me.
Provided or saw.
Okay, so you're putting it into the past tense. Why do you think it is past tense?
Because it's said. So if it's said, then it would be said in the past.
So this is saying, so today, basically it's saying today we say, so Abraham called it Adonai Yireh, but today we say Bahar Adonai Yireh.
The mountain where the Lord provides.
Okay, but again, so you're translating this as past tense, but if we were to parse it out, is it perfect or imperfect?
It is perfect.
So you're saying perfect, but something's been added on to the front.
Yes.
If something added to the front, it has to be imperfect.
Oh, right, instead of the back. Yeah.
So the Lord will provide, or the Lord will see it. And I think we talked about this I don't remember when we talked about it, but this could be translated in a number of ways. On a mountain. So notice this is not definite, but it's on the mountain. Hold on a second. This could be translated so many different ways. I remember. So we talked about this because it was an example of fronting, right? Bahar has been fronted on a mountain. The Lord, and the question in here is the Lord the subject of this verb, or is the Lord the object of this verb? Let's see here. So another question is this an active or passive verb? All of these questions, if depending on how you answer them, can tell you this is either translated on the mountain the Lord will see, or on the mountain the Lord will be seen.
Well, I mean, the main subject would be the mountain, and then everything else would be the name of the mountain.
So this is the topic of their sentence. That's right. So the main focus, Bahar, is the focus, and that's why it was fronted. But since this can be translated, the Lord will provide in one sense, or the Lord will be seen. So where do we go to see God? This phrase here is suggesting that we go up to the mountain to see God. Another thing this could be saying is on the mountain, God will provide for us. So the providing, the seeing of God and the providing of God is done on mountains, according to this phrase. And we see that in many stories throughout the Bible. Moses has to go up onto the mountain. Moses sees God on the mountain, and God provides for the Israelites on the mountain. Right? So that's just another story that kind of fulfills this phrase. So it's a complicated phrase, but it's another example of a place where understanding a little bit more about Hebrew can help you move past or beyond the translations, which will simply say, on the mountain God provides, to something maybe a little deeper. Any thoughts or questions on that idea?
I have a question about that. So are you saying that it's possible that verb is a nifal, or that Adonai could be the object, and it's more like on the mountain he will see Adonai?
Yeah, so that's the question. So let's try to figure out if this is a nifal, and that's going to be a little tricky because it's a doubly weak verb, or resh. Well, let me ask, what are normal signs of a nifal? Does anybody know?
No, that's what I need to know.
Yeah. I would expect to see a noon at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so normally we put a noon on, but what happens when it becomes an imperfect? What happens to the noon?
I suppose it would get replaced by the prefix.
That's right. So the noon disappears and the prefix gets added on. So the yod gets added onto the front. Mm-hmm. The noon doesn't completely disappear. It normally assimilates into the first radical, the first root letter.
Oh.
But do gutturals take dagesh?
Right. Resh couldn't take a dagesh, so would it affect the vowel instead?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It affect the vowel. So we need to head on to our charts because I don't expect anybody to have memorized exactly what's going on here. So previously we see yir and we have a hirik, and we have a tsere. And this here is a call verb, right? So on A16, if you look at call, the call always has the hirik underneath the prefix. So that's pretty easily seen in the imperfect, right? You see hirik, 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 except for in the first person singular. All of them are hiriks. But now we've got this tsere. So now we're thinking, well, I guess it can't be call. I wonder if this is a nifal. We need to go to one guttural and see. So look on page A21. We know we have a guttural in the first root letter, so we call that one guttural. So on A21 is our representative forms for the one guttural. And we want to look at imperfect. Oh, sorry. So it's on page 820, not 821. We want to look at imperfect because we know this is an imperfect. What vowel do we have for the call? What vowel would we expect? So look at imperfect third masculine singular. What vowel's underneath the yod on
Segul.
Anybody see? So
Yeah,
I don't know if we're all on
segul.
the same page. I'm looking right here on A20.
For the call, it's the segul.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we got a segul. In our verse here, we don't have a segul. We have a tsere. So keep looking, keep going to the right until we find a tsere.
Okay, that matches up with the nifal.
That's right. So we got a tsere there. Underneath our guttural, we have a patak. Underneath our resh, I think that's a patak. Underneath the mem in the chart, we have a tsere. But now we have an aleph there, and we have a segul. So this is actually a triply weak verb because we got guttural, guttural, hey, all of which are weak letters. But the real key here is that tsere underneath the yod. This tells us it's a nifal. The nifal can be reflexive. So the Lord, and it can be passive as well. And I'd like to translate this as passive. The Lord will be seen. The Lord will be seen on a mountain. Right. So if you want to go see God, you better go to a mountain to do it. Right. That I don't want to say this theologically. We'll talk a lot about this next semester. This is not a theological statement. This is more of a relational statement. Right. This is something that we can do to have a relationship with God. We can go up to the mountain. We can see God there. Right. All that came from a little tsere. I hope that answers some of those questions.
Now, when I have it translated in English, it says, the Hebrew says it will be provided.
Yeah, and that's the
On the
normal
mountain,
way
it
this
will
is
be
translated.
But you're trying to say that if you look at it as a scene, there might be something deeper.
Yeah.
In terms of how we interpret it.
That's right. So this first one, Adonai Yireh, in the call, is the Lord will see. The Lord is doing the action, and it's an active verb. The Lord will see. What is the Lord seeing? He's seeing to something. He's providing. In English, we would normally say provide. He will provide up on the mountain. Well, I think that's interesting enough that the Lord is going to provide something for us, but it gets a little more complex because this is a nifal. And the nifal, as we've learned, can be reflexive. And here, God's not doing anything to himself. Reflexive is when you do something to yourself. But nifal can be passive as well. So this is something that is being done to the Lord. If this is actually passive, it's being done to the Lord.
But it's not done to the Lord. Oh, you mean it is? Like it's that because it's about people seeing or provided. But it's the Lord.
So the Lord is clearly the subject of this verb. We got subject verb.
Right.
So it's clearly the subject, but the question is this active or is this passive? Active is the Lord is doing the action. Passive is the action is being done to the Lord. I'm arguing that it's passive because it's a nifal, so that the Lord is the one who is being seen.
Okay. I can barely understand this. So the only thing that I could begin to start to get a handle on is when you have this imperfect and you have a prefix, so you know that it has to be an imperfect, you begin to look at the vowels to help you decide what conjugation it would be. And if you see it, that it's not a typical call, which I guess we have to kind of memorize, or we look over at the other one and see it's different, then it has to be we just know it has to be a different interpretation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just not clear on, it seems like there's just a lot to remember and I'm having trouble figuring out what to remember, but I mean, I can parse this through and try to remember this, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to easily translate that to something new.
Yeah. So
Get
that's what next semester is for. And we're right on the edge of next semester. So I'm trying to highlight a few things that are of particular interest. And we have enough information to work our way towards these sort of questions and the answers to these questions. But at this point, I don't expect you to know that. So I'm not going to circle this verb and ask you, is this a call or a nifal? And I'm not going to expect you to be like, well, look, there's a tere there, and this is a weak verb. Right? That's not where I expect you to be. But we can have this conversation now, which I think is particularly interesting and hopefully encouraging to you that
kind of opens your eyes to why. Okay.
Yeah, why are we here? What are we doing? Well, we're asking all these questions so we can tell the difference between yer'eh and yera'eh. And there's a big difference between those verbs, right? In next semester, that's all we're going to do is ask these questions and do interpretation. Right now, we just need to translate. Next semester is really about interpretation. Actually, that's what the class is called, is interpreting the Hebrew Bible. There you go. But, every once in a while, we can do a little interpreting even now. So don't worry, right? Because that's not going to be on the quiz. That's really just for kicks and giggles, as they say. Well, let's go ahead and do some more translating, just basic translating. I don't think there's anything else in here that we're going to dive in too deep, but who knows? It's the sacrifice of Isaac, so you can always go a little nuts with it. Let's see here. Well, Julie, you are up. I'm going to divide this box in half, I think. Translate.
Okay. I'll try to read it off your screen, I guess. But
hold on a second. I've got to just translate to right here. Hazeh.
Do you want me to read it or to just translate it?
Let's just translate now. That I talked
for time. Okay. Well, so it's in I have sworn. This is God talking. And I'm not sure what the noom is. So in the that I have sworn, something I have sworn, in the fact that I've sworn, the Lord, so I guess that's declares, right? Declares that.
Declares or uttered. I like the word uttered here. But.
Uttered, okay. Uttered that I am, because that which I made you, because that which you have made, because that which you have made to that thing.
Yeah, this is you got the short end or the short straw here. Unfortunately, it's
this thing which it is. I don't know what that means. Okay, so because I've sworn to you, the Lord, who's sworn declares the Lord. So this is God declaring. Is that what that says? The little hyphen means I'm trying, like God said, or it's declared.
This stuff right here.
Uttered the Lord. So
yeah.
So I have sworn to you. So I have sworn, declares the Lord, that upon I want to say
ya'an. Anybody ya'an?
Ya'an, because
I think that's a new vocab.
It's new. It's because on account of.
Because
on account of. Okay, sorry.
On here. Because on account of, right there.
Because on account of.
So back up here. So key is because, and on account ya'an is going to be on account. We're not going to say because, but because on account of, something like that.
Okay, so because on account of that which this is made, asa, isn't it?
Yeah, made or
done,
do.
And that you have done, because it's got the ta on the end.
Ta, you did.
Or that you did. So how do I know it's you did? Because it's just perfect, right?
Yeah, it's perfect.
So that's perfect. So it's perfect. So I know it has to be you did it because of what you did. Upon related to the word.
Yeah.
Word or the thing. Or the thing.
Good. Hazeh.
And then that's this.
Yeah, good.
Of this.
Yeah. Okay, well, First off, I have to say I'm impressed that you got all of that. That's really good.
Well, I've parsed this out. I want to tell you. I mean, good. Full disclosure. I had to go and read the Bible. I found out where it was in the text and went through with my
Nice.
accordance. Thank you.
Good. Okay, well, let's break it all down because you got it, and now we just got to kind of put it together. Do you have a sense of what all this means?
Well, okay, so I don't have a sense of what it means other than I know that it's God saying, because of somehow what you've done, I know. I mean, of course, I know the story of Isaac, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's God saying, okay, well, because of everything that you've done, then now I know, or you love me, or you care about me, or that's where it's going, right?
That's where it's going, something like that. So God here, Bi Nishbati, is a declaration of commitment. God is committing to do something. He says, by me, I swear. He is swearing that he's going to do something. And this box down here is going to tell us what he's going to do. Then this is just utters the Lord. It's interesting that God is talking, and he's like talking in the third person here, right? Utters the Lord. This is on Asher, 3 grammatical terms in a row. God talks like this. The more we read, the more you'll notice that when God is talking, it's the most complicated Hebrew that we've run across. So there's some sort of stylistic feature that whenever we quote God, something about God is just like really complex and philosophical. So we'll see that even in the style of Hebrew. Ki an Asher. Because of that which you did, and the thing that you did is this thing, and he's referring to all that has come before. Because you did this thing, and now he's going to tell us exactly what he did that God is so happy about. So we got to put a pin in it because we haven't figured out what this is yet, and that's what follows the Vav. So let's go to Sarah. And Sarah, you can pick up there and translate to the end of this bubble.
Perfect. Sorry, my friend just went into labor. Can you show me exactly? I was checking.
That's not distracting at all.
I'm really sorry.
Not
Can you show me where we are specifically, like right there?
Velo chasachta, right here.
Yeah, so because you didn't sacrifice?
That's right, because you did not. Well, this isn't sacrifice, is it? Chasak.
Bind him up?
No. Those are all like great contextual, guesses. But this was one of our new words. I think on a previous page, I think it's withheld. Is that what others have? Yeah. Because you did not withhold. And this is a rare word. I don't, honestly expect you to memorize this outside of this context. Because you did not withhold. What did Abraham not withhold? Your son.
Your only son.
Your only son. You did not withhold your only son. So
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go, please, Sarah.
For withhold, I missed that verb. Or is it a verb or is it a noun? I guess I don't know where it is where we should have learned it.
Yeah, if somebody has kind of a page and I don't have it, I'm looking.
Oh, no, I do. I see it. So it's a verb.
It is a verb. That's right.
Okay.
That ta on the end is a perfect verb ending, right? So, tells us it's a verb. So you did not withhold your only son, and that is this stuff. That's this thing that Abraham did, and that thing is why God is swearing to do all of this stuff over here, right? So God's speech, like I said, is complicated. Any questions about this before we finish the ... that follows it? All right. So let's pick up there. Let's see here. Katie, you can pick up that. Alex, you'll take the last one. I think that'll be so everybody would have a chance to translate it, I think. Okay, Katie, go ahead to see what you can do with the rest of God's speech here.
Great. For I will really bless you and to increase you and super increase your seed.
Super increase, that's right.
Like the sand, like the waters, the sand on the seashore.
Kocheve.
Kechochabe. I don't know what that is.
All right. So what is Hashemayim? Do you remember Hashemayim?
The heavens, like the stars in the heavens, like the
Stars
stars
in
in
the
the heavens, and the sand, and like the sand which is on the shore of the water.
That's right. So Safat is literally lip. This
Okay.
is body part, but it's the lip of the sea, which is the shore, right, in English. But hey, that's the kind of idiom that Hebrew uses. Again, we're looking at a first person dialogue from God. And because of that, we expect all of the interesting grammatical features that we have possibly learned. So we get all of our infinitive absolutes here. We had all sorts of subordinate clauses piled on top of each other, right? So it's not easy stuff, but you do quite well. So let's see, we should probably parse something. Let's take a close look at Bahar Ba Arbe. Both of these verbs, they're working together. So what can you tell us about these verbs?
That's a great question. The first one is the infinitive absolute. Bahar ba. The root is, well, okay, so this is a new vocabulary, and I'm seeing that it's in the hifil, so it's to cause to increase. And so I guess that reflects the hifil conjugation in the infinitive, and then arbe is again the first person hifil, first person perfect hifil. What else do I need?
First person perfect. You said perfect?
Yeah, I said perfect.
Imperfect. That's okay.
Oh, imperfect, yeah.
Okay, so it is imperfect, and you said first person. We'd say common singular. Is the last. Yeah. So it's common because it has no gender specifically, and it's obviously singular. Good. So I like that you saw that this is hifil, and that's really what I wanted you to get to, is why is this hey here? And this hey is kind of hanging out. The infinitive absolute will match the verb that follows it in binyanim normally. So we'll have a hifil. This is much harder to see. The arbe, there's no marker of the hifil here because it's a doubly weak verb with a guttural and hey on the end. But it is hifil because of this patak here. And if you're looking at A16, your imperfects, you just go across the hifil and you'll see the first common singular has a patak there. The call is spelled with a segel normally. The PL is spelled with a chataf patak. But now here in the hifil we have our patak. So that's one clue that that's the hifil. But here, the hey is a very obvious clue. So very good.
Nice.
Yeah, good. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, I have a question just to kind of walk me through this again. So I see the hey, and normally on that being an infinitive, if I can understand that, it would normally not have a hey at all, right? Because if it was a call verb, for example.
That's right.
So having the fact, like it shouldn't have, as an infinitive, have no prefix. So the fact that it has a hey means it's just another type of verb.
That's right. So it's, well, not conjugation, but binyamin. It's conjugation that is
you're right.
An infinitive. The binyamin is up in the air until you realize the hey is there, and that tells us the binyamin is a hifil.
And so then I would just say, well, that other word's weird, but that's an aleph because of the weak resh.
Well, there's an aleph here because this is an imperfect first person. So this goes back to our dance. It that aleph.
And it would never have it would always drop, but the hey isn't there. What is it always dropped then on a hifil?
The hey in the imperfect hifil is always dropped because the prefix is added on to the front.
because of that, and then it just is going to bump the hay out of there, the olive.
That's right.
Otherwise, if it was you, what would it look like? If it was about you, if that verb had to do in a conjugation second person,
If
what
it
would
was second person, it would have a tav there instead of an aleph.
Okay.
So the second person has the tav as the prefix, and it has a different suffix on the end depending on which you you're talking about.
And so the ta would still force it to lose its hay.
In the imperfect, the hifil never has the hay there because there's a prefix is added on, and the hay is always lost in the imperfect.
So that's the problem with identifying hifils when we start, except for the perfect, right?
That's right.
Okay.
In perfect, it's relatively easy because the hay is always there.
Right.
Imperfect, it gets much more challenging because we lose the hay. Then we're normally looking for a hirik yod, but because this is weak, the hirik yod is gone. So we're only left with vowel clues, and the patak is our only vowel clue. Again, this is not one word that I would circle for your exam next week.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be something I'd circle for your exam next semester. That's by the end of next semester, we will want to be able to work towards an answer like that. Right. All right. Alex, you're always last. I don't know why, but you're always the last person on my list. First. So go ahead and finish off the story for us.
And Abraham returned to his young men. And they went together, but I skipped a word.
Yeah, good. So, vayakumu, what is that?
They, past narrative, they, third person plural.
Good. What's the root?
Kaf, mem.
Mm-hmm. So we're missing something, and the question is, what are we missing? Kaf mem, and this is a relatively new word for us. I think we just learned it. Does anybody know what letter we're missing?
Oh, they arose.
Isn't there a shurik in between the kaf and the mem?
That's right. We've lost that bob, which is spelled with the shurik, oo. It sounds exactly the same, kum, but the bob is gone. And they arose and
they went together to Beer Sheba.
Beer Sheba, good.
And Abraham dwelled in that land, Beersheba.
That's right. Okay, very good. I don't think we need to parse anything particularly. All of these are weak verbs, and all of them would be interesting to parse through, but they don't really add much to the meaning. So I'm not really interested in parsing them unless it helps us understand the verse better. What is interesting is if you read the next few verses, it seems interesting that Abraham goes to this specific place. Why did Abraham go to Be'er Sheva? He wasn't living there previously, but now this is where he goes after this whole episode. We learn that Sarah dies and she's buried somewhere else. I've heard people speculate that Abraham and Sarah had a fight after Abraham tried to kill their beloved son. And that's why Abraham moved to a whole different city and Sarah was left in a different spot. It also doesn't say where Isaac goes. He just tried to kill this little kid. Does Isaac go with him to this place? And they walk together. It says, and Abraham returned unto his lads. But where did Isaac go? Is he with Abraham or not? And they, who is they? This is a pretty open question. The author is leaving some stuff to our imagination. And I imagine if my dad tried to kill me, I'd run to my mom and move to a different city, right? So I've heard people speculate about this, and I think it's interesting to consider that possibility. Well, that takes us right up to 10 o'clock. your quiz will come from one of these. It'll be one of these panels here. I don't know which one yet, but we'll find out tomorrow. If you have any questions, you want to hang out and parse words or talk about something, I can be here for a little while. Otherwise, Toda Rabah. Thank you very much. And Hitrot. We will see you later.
Professor, I have a question. If you could just explain on the first page the use of the imperatives in the second box.
The very first page of this reading.
Yeah, because we're not using the imperfects anymore.
So you're looking at the very first. You're looking right. I wish I don't have it on my computer.
Yeah, kach.
Yeah.
Kachna.
Kachna. Okay, good. Yeah. Kachna. Okay. Imperative. Yeah. So you think that's an imperative? Is that what you're saying?
I don't exactly know what it is, but I think that is.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's an imperative, and there's a number of things that'll help us figure that out. The main thing that helps you figure that out is the na follows it. If you have a verb followed by na, it's almost always an imperative. That's not like a hard and fast rule, but it's kind of a clue that helps us. The other thing that's going to help us is how this word is spelled. It is very short. Typically, if it was an imperfect, there'd be something attached to the front of it. It could be a perfect, but it would actually be spelled different. Since it's a weak verb, it's difficult to know exactly how it would be spelled. We'd have to check it up and kind of compare and contrast. So since it's a weak verb, I personally rely on the na to know that this is an imperative here. And also context tells me that this is imperative because God is commanding here Abraham to do something. So all those things help me know that that's an imperative.
What does that word translate as then? Is it to call, like he called?
Well, the root is lamed kaf het lachak.
Oh, so he took?
To take. And in the imperative, it means you take.
It's like right. I don't know.
So if we were parsing out that word, it would be a call, and then it's imperfect just because it's an imperative, meaning it's a command.
That's right. It's call.
Is that how you write that down, or what do you say?
Yeah, you write down call imperative. That's how you're going.
Just imperative. So imperative is just another conjugation.
That's right.
And so in general, how would I know it's an imperative other than maybe you said that it's, the clue might be that it's followed by ba, right? Or na, it's followed by na. So that's a clue. Number two is that it's so shortened. Like otherwise it would be lakak on most of the time, right?
Yeah, so if it was perfect, it would be spelled lakak. Lamed, kamet, kaf, patach, het, lakak. In the imperfect, the lamed is removed, it disappears, and we've seen that in a lot of places. The lamed and lakak always disappears in the imperfect. Right down here, look. Vayekach, the lamed is gone.
Oh, yeah, so there it is again, and the imperfect, okay.
This is the past narrative. The imperative removes everything that is added on to the imperfect. So the yod is gone. This is all removed. The dagesh is gone. Everything is gone because the imperative removes all of that stuff. And all you're left with is kaf het. So because this is all we're left with, we know it's an imperative.
In the past narrative, if you have lakak and you're talking about they, what does that look like then? It loses it'd be like vayikachem.
If you're talking in they, which person? Second person?
I don't know. Let's try third. Anything. I'm trying anything just to get sure that I'm understanding the conjugation, so I can understand it. But it could be them. So let's say it's him, right?
So we'd add the tav instead of the yod, and then depending on if it's feminine or masculine, there'd be u or a na on the end.
Okay, so now even in a past narrative, you would do that? The past narrative has the suffix.
The
I mean,
past
I thought
narrative it looks exactly like the imperfect, except for the va, patak, dagesh are added onto the front.
so they don't drop anything. You don't drop those.
Not in the past narrative, just adds something, adds the vav onto the front. That's it.
Okay. I'm a little bit jumbled on all this. So the past narrative simply adds to your imperfect.
That's right. So if you look at A16 in your charts, it really might help comparing the imperfect, because it's all there, all in one place. It's a lot to look at, but if you can somehow absorb some of that, you see at the top of A16, the imperfects have the yod and the tav and the aleph and all that on the front. Next one's the past narrative. That vav's just been added on to the front. They don't give you anything else. They just give you the third masculine singular. The reason they do that is because all you need to know is that vav and the patak are added on to the front of all of the imperfects. It doesn't change anything else. Sometimes the vowels change just a little bit because of accentuation, but that's it. And then we get our jussive imperatives. That's what we just learned. The jussive looks almost exactly like the imperfect, except for it is often shortened. The vowels can be shortened. The first common singular, the ah is added onto the end, that hey there. The imperative looks exactly like the imperfect, except for the prefix has been removed. So that's why the imperative is so short compared to the imperfect.
Okay, then I just get a little confused between imperfect and I'm just getting a little confused between infinitive and imperfect. Mm-hmm. And is there any way you can simplify that, or is there, what am I missing?
Are you confused because of how it looks or the meaning of it?
I just think it's like, everything. I mean, I think I just haven't separated in my mind, so it's just kind of a jumble of all this.
Yeah. So an imperfect is a verb that tells you something about the type of action as well as who is doing the action. The infinitive tells you nothing about the type of action nor who's doing it. All it says is to do something. And on A16 it's shamar, so that's to watch. It's not who is watching or how they're watching or when they're watching. It is just to watch, and that's it. That's also reflected in its form because it is not it's not conjugated for person, gender, or number. There's no prefix or suffix on it, right? All you get is this one form. So that's why there's nothing on the front, there's nothing on the back. It is spelled just like the imperfect third masculine singular, the shiva and the holum, but the yod has been taken off of the front.
And so given that, so when you see that, is it usually the infinitive then used to be like the surely that we've talked about?
Well, the infinitive absolute, yes, that's right. It's almost always, if you're looking at an infinitive absolute, it is almost always just an emphasis word, surely or something like that. The infinitive construct is quite a bit different, and it's used in subordinate clauses. I ate my breakfast to be strong. The to be strong in English is an infinitive. That's the purpose of eating. And that's one of the main uses of the infinitive, is to talk about the purpose of the main verb. Why are you learning Hebrew? You're learning Hebrew to know God. To know is an infinitive in English, and in Hebrew we'd use an infinitive in there as well. That's the subordinate clause that tells us the purpose of the main clause, right? So I'm doing something in order that I might do something else. That result or purpose is expressed with an infinitive in English and in Hebrew, right? So I'm talking to you to explain. To explain is an infinitive, right?
Okay. That's a little helpful. I'm not sure, because now we've got the jussive, which is shortened.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We keep adding new ones.
I think it's a little much for me. I wish that I needed to be in the remedial Hebrew class. It's just part
of our goal in the first semester is to go very quickly. So a lot of us will just be completely overwhelmed by how much we have to learn. The reason we do that is to get to the end of the semester and have completed everything we need to know to read Hebrew. So if you can't take the second semester, you at least have access to everything you need to know. If you can take the second semester, then it's a much easier semester, and it's a chance for you to start using everything that you have studied in the first semester, right? So I know that this is rather overwhelming and it's a bit too much, but just our goal is to get through this semester alive and with a good passing grade, and the next semester you'll be able to really break this stuff down and start to absorb it and enjoy it a lot more. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hope that, because I've been doing an incredible amount of work, and it's still kind of a jumble. So,
well, and I think just like in your midterm, you ended up with a very good grade in your midterm, and you're going to very likely end up with a very good grade on your final, even though you might not feel like you can answer all the questions. Just relax and know that I'm not going to ask the most difficult questions that one possibly could. I'm going to ask the more basic questions that you're going to be able to answer, right?
Okay. Because I mean, it's helpful now. I'm going through the Bible as I just go through and try to read it.
Nice.
And compare, and so then that gives me answers. So at least I don't have to try to I'm not stuck looking over trying to find what the word is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Having a translation is very helpful, right? It's an answer key that we can use.
It's an answer key. So that's what has been elusive for me in some of the questions. Even when they ask questions, is like what they're meaning and what the answers are. So I would kind of just FYI for your information, the more you can have kind of answer keys, because I have, you kind of otherwise feel like I have no idea if this is even close to being right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's part of the struggle with the seminary approach. I'm not a fan of having answer keys. Okay. I know from personal experience that I use that as a crutch too much, and so I don't end up learning anything. The struggle is really important when we learn a language. It's like being thrown into a foreign land where you don't know the language. That immersion, that struggle, that pain of trying to learn it really cements the stuff into our head. But in a seminary, we meet essentially once a week, and it's hard for us to learn a language that way. So, maybe next year, or if I teach this again next time, it might be good to have an answer key, at least for some of the exercises.
Well, or even if on some of those sentences that they have, which are from the Bible, it's like, where are those? So that you could look them up to figure out whether they're even.
The authors intentionally don't tell you where they are, simply so you don't have an answer key, right? So you have to struggle and have to ask questions. And I know it's.
I mean, I guess that's okay, but it's just a kind of ridiculous. I mean, at my level, it's just over the top. I mean, I have to say, I think it's like, it's like not very fun. So that's I just kind of have been working really hard this week, but, and I'm just thankful that my other classes, I've been able to kind of be able to do that,
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's
Can
good.
I have one more quick question? Sorry. Yeah. I know you need to go. For the earlier, when we parse out the verbs on the page we were going through earlier, when were you saying it was a hipful or a hipful? The TH or the H, I guess, the hey.
Yeah, so the hitpael or the hifil, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sorry, they sound really similar to me, so sometimes I struggle knowing which one were.
Sure. So go ahead and look on page A16, if you can.
Yeah. Oh.
At the very top, in the gray, on the very top row, it says call, nifal, pl, pual, hitpael, and hifil, right? So the main difference between the hitpael and the hifil is the hit part. There's going to be a T or a tav added in.
Even though the hey sometimes falls off, I know.
The hey, especially in the imperfect. So compare the imperfect, or the hitpael and the hifil. The third masculine singular, the hifil has the yod. The hitpael is a yod tav. That tav is always there.
Right.
So if there's a hitpael, there's going to be an extra tav, and that's such a reliable sign.
So without fail, we'll always see that. And for the hifil, we'll always see the heroic yod. That's what I'm looking for, even if the hey has fallen off.
That's what we're going to be looking for. That's right. Yep.
Okay. So in the case of I'm trying to remember, it was increase. For that one, it was a hifil because there's a hey, there's no tav, even though I don't see a heroic yod.
Okay, so are you talking on this page?
Yeah. For increase, I was just trying to clarify if it was a hiphil or a hippio.
Okay, good. Yep. So when we're looking at v'harba, there's a hey added. There's no tav. If this was a hit pile, there would be a tav right here.
But there's no hirik yod either.
And that's okay. The hirik yod is going to disappear pretty regularly in weak verbs. So especially when the last letter is weak and this last letter is weak, this is normally spelled resh bait. I think it's resh bait actually is how it's normally spelled. But anyways, we're missing a letter. And when you're missing a letter, it's going to be spelled differently.
Okay.
But this hey is a clear sign. But if we look at this one, we have no clear signs. And that's pretty normal in Hebrew. Now, there's just so few signs for us to know that the ar bet is a hifil. But there's no hey and there's no hirik yod, right? How do we know? And that's really a question for next semester. I would circle a word like this for this semester because there's a clear sign. You're going to be able to answer the questions I want you to answer. I'm not going to circle this one because there are no clear signs, right? So it's good that you're asking these questions. Just know that you're not going to have to answer the really kind of absurd ones until next semester. That's what we do next.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, anything else?
No, those were my main. I was just trying to keep going through because the early parts of the story I missed with being in Tanzania, so I translated them myself, but that is not as reliable. So I was going to rewatch. I know you did the first page. I was going to rewatch that again in preparation of the final, so that tomorrow I can ask you because there were a couple words here and there that I was like, ooh, when I was doing it.
Yeah, I don't think I have recordings for all of it. So if there's a particular spot that if you work through it and you have an issue, let me know and I can translate it. Or like Julie was doing, find this passage in the Bible, and that can be helpful.
Yeah, it was actually on my, I'm doing a random reading thing right now, and it was just randomly this week, today, I read it again. I was laughing so hard. So
that's cool. Yeah, I like when that happens.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yep, see you tomorrow.